Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Third Man Cricket Podcast. Here we are back with episode number 32. Today, we're going to run through all the teams from the west and south of the country. One may argue and say, okay, the business side of things are here, or probably the most successful teams are here. But yeah, having said that, yeah, I think it's going to be a fun ride. And of course, we have Pavan Bhaiya with us. Welcome, Pavan Bhaiya. How are you doing? And of course, your thoughts on to start with, firstly, on Gujarat Titans from the West Coast.
Thank you, Ravi. I'm doing good. Hope you're doing fine as well. Yes, we had a good discussion in our previous episode with respect to the northern and eastern teams. And here we are discussing the western teams to start off with, and one newbie in their Gujarat Titans. So they have appointed Hardik Pandya as the skipper for this season, and I guess they wanted to have a local face from Gujarat, and that might have played a huge role in appointing him as a skipper. And it'll be interesting to see how he goes and performs as a skipper and also proves himself as a player, more specifically as a bowler, to arrest the doubts that many of the Indian fans would be having. And if we start off with their batting, they have a solid pick in there in form of Shubman Gill at the top of the order, but I don't see any firepower along with him in the top order, and who will ideally be partnering him. Uh, and interestingly, I see, one of the three wicket keepers that they have selected who might be apt to partner him at the top of the order. So they've got Matthew Wade, Riddhiman Saha, and the young Afghan Rahmanullah Gurbaz, whom I'm very excited about. I have seen him play, and I remember telling you that this guy should be a hot pick in the auction, uh, which he was not, but later on, better sense prevailed and Gujarat Titans picked him up. So I definitely see one of these three players playing along with Shubman Gill at the top of the order. Uh, and it is their middle order batting and the spinning department, which is a cause of worry as far as I am concerned. Um, when it comes to the middle order, you've got the skipper Hardik Pandya, then you've got David Miller from South Africa, and you've got a couple of proven domestic performance in Gurkirat Singh Maan and Vijay Shankar. So it'll be interesting to see whom they go with in the middle order. And in the lower middle order also, I do not seem to, um, you know, find any power hitters there. Rahul Tewatia has been picked, uh, who can bat a bit. Of course, he showed his histrionics in a couple of matches in the last season or so in the IPL. How consistent he remains with both bat and ball is a question to be answered. Um, he'll of course be one of those spinners, and they've obviously got Rashid Khan in there, who will be a certainty in their playing 11 in all the matches unless he is deemed unfit. And they've got Jayant Yadav to round off their spinning department. So um, it'll be interesting to see who they pick there as the second spinner, whether they go in with Jayant or with Tewatia. Um, I think the strongest suit is their pace bowling. They've got Blocky Ferguson and Mohammad Shami in there. I see Ferguson definitely being part of the playing 11 whenever he's fit. Mohammad Shami again is a proven performer. Alzari Joseph is also a good addition to their squad. Pradeep Sangwan makes a comeback after a long hiatus. And then you've got the erratic Varun Aaron as well. Not seen much of him lately. And finally, I would say they've got one interesting pick, Dominic Drakes, who has been a proven performer in Caribbean Premier League and a couple of other leagues around the world. So it'll be interesting to see how they, cope up. But on paper, I see a lot of gaping holes in their team. So it'll be interesting to see how the Indian players step up for them, along with the overseas players. I definitely see David Miller, Rashid Khan, one out of Matthew Wade or Ramanullah Gurbaz, and then Lockie Ferguson being their top four overseas picks. So all in all, a decent squad, I would say, a middling squad, but does not give me a feel of being a champion squad in their first season for a new team. I'd like to know your thoughts on that, Ravi.
Well, it's largely agreed. I personally feel they're probably the weakest team, is what I feel. Probably a close second is none. Maybe it would be really surprising if they actually make it to the playoffs. I mean, what are my reasons for that? Firstly, I think Hardik Pandya as the captain, I don't seem to be a leader to start with. I mean, I've been listening a lot about him from the cricketing circuits, on-field antics or attitude is something that we can talk about lengths and breadths about the two brothers. But having said that, I won't probably want to judge him basis that alone. But let's also give a throwback or probably a callback which was given by Ravi Shastri the other day, wherein he's like, okay, every damn player is fit before IPL 2022. I think it's the greatest physiotherapy or something is what he mentioned. uh, Slightly feel it's hinted at him. And if Mumbai Indians also didn't find it uh, not worthy to kind of retain him, I'm not sure. I think there's a lot more behind Hardik Pandya as the person or the leader as well. Important for him to bat well, bowl well, and of course do well in all three departments for him to even get closer to the playing 11 of India. So that's one side of things, and um, uh, I don't want to make very harsh statements about Ashish Nehra, also the head coach. Of course, they do have someone like a Kirsten, but still, Ashish Nehra as the head coach is something, I'm not really going with the meme material or everything out there. But, in general, we didn't see them, doing really well at the auction table as well. So I think that's where I'll probably stop my thoughts to and not necessarily go with the usual narrative about Ashish Nehra. And I think their troubles have just increased with Jason Roy because he's a terrific batsman, has done really well for Sunrisers, and with him gone, the troubles have increased multifold. So a lot depends on Shubman Gill as well. Shubman Gill was touted to be a very good, the next gen batsman and whatnot. And to be honest, he's a very good limited overs batsman for sure. Red ball batsman for sure. But we didn't still see him, actually explode in IPL even for KKR for that matter. Um, David Miller is not the same. Lockie Ferguson, they had to buy him for big bucks. Not very sure if he deserves that. So Matthew Wade, of course, is in all his glory with this terrific knock against Pakistan and being a world champion and whatnot. So I'll not. I mean, Abhinav Manohar is one other player who we can probably expect some fireworks from. Rahul Tewatia is a good buy. Rashid Khan has had a very good PSL as well recently and is always a reliable start to start with. But overall, when you look at the playing 11 as together, I don't think the batting has much depth in it. The bowling, I personally feel, is better than how the batting actually looks like. Considering Mohammad Shami is at the helm. And then one player probably I'm really looking forward to see is R. Sai Kishore. He was with Chennai, but didn't get games. But was apparently he did used to trouble a lot the bowlers and the batsmen in the nets, and there are multiple stories that I read about him, and so it would be interesting if we can actually get to see some game time for him. So that's my probably 2 cents on Gujarat Titans. I don't think they have realistic chances to get into the play top four, and if they do, I think it will be a story to tell. So yeah, that's on Gujarat Titans, and I think next I'll just go a bit east to Mumbai Indians. The amazing thing about Mumbai Indians, what I personally feel, is that the core is damn intact with Ishan Kishan, Rohit Sharma, Surya Kumar, Kyron Pollard, and Jasprit Bumrah as well. Uh, Important for Rohit to do well at the top because he's not necessarily that explosive batsman of the past, at least in the IPL, be it due to injury concerns uh, or anything for that matter. But considering he's now the captain of the Indian team, right? The whole spotlight that Virat had for all these years, I think this would be. I mean, he doesn't need to prove anything given all his success in IPL. But having said that, there'll be some extra eyes looking at him for sure. Bowling looks shady. That's what I felt. Bumrah, Unadkat, with some amount of spin attack, which is led by someone like an Ashwin Murugan, and Mayank Markande maybe as the second option. So. Uh, their overseas picks also were not like very exciting with Timel Mills and Tim David, that that they bought. And but of course, the beautiful part about Mumbai Indians is the structure. As they say, the sangathan in political circles. The scouting is terrific. They have a method to that entire madness in how they manage the franchise, and I think it's a story to tell for sure. So talking about scouting, Mumbai Indians, and the player that I'm looking forward to is Tilak Verma. Hopefully Hyderabadi, who's going to kind of make a debut for Team India, and but before that he needs to make it for Team Indians to start with, and then of course you have the captain backing him. Perhaps there's definitely some amount of inputs at Rohit's level for sure, because he's gone for those big bucks and he's performed, you know, amazingly well in the domestic circuit as well. Uh, another interesting buy was the baby AB de Villiers, Deval Brevis. I felt it was a rushed purchase. There's too much importance given to aesthetics and nostalgia and whatnot. But with Mumbai Indians, you never probably guess that, because they'll just get the best of everyone, and then would be nice to see. And that's how they got Marco Janssen as well. And now we have Deval Brevis. So yeah, of course, the biggest advantage that Mumbai Indians definitely have this time around will be the conditions, because all games will pretty much be played in within Mumbai. We know for a fact that all their uh, practice games before COVID were used to happen back in DY Patil and also in Brabon. And I remember when I was chatting with Tilak Verma, he mentioned that when he went for a Mumbai Indians, camp, he was asked to bat in DY Patil, because that's where the entire setup is set at. So, and let's not forget they're going to play all their games pretty much within that vicinity. So amazing advantage. So that would be nice to see how they'll kind of exploit the conditions out there. So you know you can never write off the Mumbai Indians. I don't want to go into predictions with respect to where they're probably going to end up with on the table, but top four, you'll not be surprised. And that's my 2 cents on Mumbai. What's your take, Bhaiya?
Yeah, they have pretty much kept their core intact, as you mentioned. And if we look at their batting, the Indian um, players form the core strength of their batting lineup, with Rohit, Surya, Ishan in there, and an exciting young player, Tilak Verma, who should be given his chance. Um, the area that I see them struggling is with their overseas players. Karan Pollard is not the same Karan Pollard that we know of, but he seems to develop a different kind of energy every time he puts on the Mumbai Indians t-shirt as opposed to the West Indian kit. Tim David had a very good PSL. He's from Singapore, and based on that they have invested in him. So let's see how he performs in the IPL. Um, and their spinning department also is very thin. They don't have anybody else apart from Morgan Ashwin and Mayank Markande to fall back on. And it's pretty perplexing that they went with, somebody like a Daniel Sams, Tamal Mills, and Jaydev Unadkat. Here are three left-arm spinners who are of the same kind, not express pace, but can only, depend on change of pace. So it'll be interesting to see how they cope up or which selections that they make. And of course, Jasprit Bumrah will be the leader of the pack. They've got Riley Meredith as well in their ranks. They've invested in a young bowler by the name of Arshad Khan. Um, uh, they've got a young wicketkeeper as a backup to Ishan Kishan, Aryan Jewel, who has played for India under 19, um, and some other players as well. Anmol Preet Singh, he was part of Mumbai Indians earlier, but did not get many games, and they have selected him again. And like you mentioned, they've got the best scouting talent. Nobody knew who was Jasprit Bumrah or who were the Pandya brothers before they started performing for Mumbai Indians and went on to become these huge international stars. So they are banking on these youngsters, whom they have selected. But having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if they are, off the boil this season, and if they don't make the playoffs. They are the most successful franchise so far in the Indian Premier League with 5 titles. But again, they know that they have a good mixture of youth and experience, but it remains to be seen how they perform as a unit in this new avatar. So uh, I would say um, 7 to 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. But as I mentioned, I would not be surprised if they don't make it to the playoffs. Having said that, we have done a roundup of the Western teams, and so now we have got the final group, and that is the Southern group to go with. And why not start with the Silicon City, Bangalore, the Royal Challengers Bangalore, who have had a change in leadership as well after Virat Kohli decided to move on in his captaincy career with them. So they have appointed Faf du Plessis, the experienced pro from South Africa, as their captain. I was a tad disappointed as they could have invested in somebody like a somebody who was much more younger and could carry on the franchise for many years. But they chose Faf, and that there's a reason for that because he's been a successful captain and somebody who commands respect in that dressing room. Um, they've got good firepower in their batting with the likes of obviously Virat Kohli, Faf himself, Glenn Maxwell again. The big show is in there. Um, and they've got the exciting one into Hasaranga. I think he plays and is fit. He is bound to have a good, season with them. He is adept with both the bat and the ball. Um, and of course, you've got a couple of experienced Indians also in there. Dinesh Karthik again has gone around so many teams in the IPL, finds himself in a another team. So there is some experience that they've looked to bank on, and will look forward to him to perform in the upcoming season. There were a couple of exciting youngsters in there. Mahipal Lomlor, who is pretty handy with both the bat and ball, and Shahbaz Ahmed as well. And I think pace bowling stock is one of their strongest suits, not something you would associate with Royal Challengers Bangalore because bowling has been their Achilles heel for the longest time. But the likes of Mohammad Siraj, Harshit Patel have developed so much in the last 2 or 3 years via the IPL, and it's different cases. Harshal Patel performed in domestic cricket and then really well in the IPL, and then that catapulted him into the Indian scheme of things. Mohammad Siraj similarly has been fantastic with the red ball and post his heroics with the red ball. He's been a different brother in the IPL as well. Uh, and then to add to these two Indian pacers, they've got Josh Hazelwood and Jason Berendorf, both Aussies, one righty and one lefty. So that gives them great variety as well. And they've got Siddharth Kaul as well, old friend of Virat Kohli. Looking forward to him playing along with Virat Kohli in Royal Challengers Bangalore. They have also invested in the young left arm seamer from Hyderabad, Chama Milan. See how it goes. But again, they are very thin in the spin department. They have Karan Sharma, uh, who is just tapered off in the last few years. Um, so they'll looks like it'd be struggling in the spinning department. Thankfully, they're not playing in the Chinnaswamy, where it would have been much more detrimental to their efforts. They've got David Willey as well in their ranks to fall on in the foreign player category. But when it comes to the top four picks of foreign players, I think Paf, Glenn Maxwell, one into Hasranga, and then one out of Hazelwood or Berendorf would definitely be their picks. Um, so they've got a good balance this time. Their batting and bowling seems to complement each other, and they would love to have their big guns, Kohli, Maxwell, and Duplessis all firing on all cylinders for them to have any chance. But we cannot rule them out. I'm backing them to play well this season, and just having that captaincy load off his shoulders might free up Virat. I would love to see him open the innings, to be honest, like he did with Devdutt Padikkal for the last couple of seasons. Just having that freedom to go out and express himself and leave the running of the team and that headache to Pep might actually be beneficial to him and the team. So all in all, a good squad that they have built up. A lot of thinking has gone behind that from Mike Hassan in there, and I'll not be surprised to make it to the playoffs. Your thoughts on the team, Ravi?
Not much to add after the very detailed review there, Baya. But having said that, terrific top order. Faf, Virat. I think Mahipal Umror will get good amount of games is what I feel, and of course you have experience in there with DK and also Maxwell. So Indian core, of course, is quite important there, and it would be interesting to see how they'll do. Of course, like you rightly pointed out, spin is something that's a bit concerning, but I always felt Karan Sharma is good to walk into playing 11 of probably any IPL team, but it's just that he was playing for Chennai, and of course it has the likes of Jaddu Moin or amazing spinners out there. Having said that, the seam attack looks really solid with Harshal Patel, Mohammad Siraj, Josh Hazelwood, and of course uh, the Hyderabadi Chama Mill in there with Sid Kaul and Jason Behrendorff as alternators or probably I'll say options. Um, One player that I thought we should be looking forward to would be Gautam Anishwar from Bangalore. Young guy, does really well apparently in the domestic circuit, and would be nice to see the local lad getting some good games for some games for Bangalore. And of course, Shafin Rutherford, another interesting buy, but I personally feel with captain being Faf, the foreign slots are full, especially considering the spin attack is pretty uh, thin, and Vanindo Hasranga will get a lot of games in those probably dusty balls of Mumbai. So not very sure if Rutherford will be getting a lot of games, but having said that, I think we should be expecting Maxwell also to bowl a lot of overs there. Um, best thing that could happen perhaps to RCB is the sense knocked in, and then someone said, okay, it's not going to be DK, but it's going to be Faf, because there were very strong rumors that actually DK was asked to fly in because he's going to be declared as a captain and whatnot. But yeah, come on, at a player of Virat's caliber, he's gotten so close so many times under Vettori, under his captaincy. He's played few playoffs as well. But of course, I think a player at that level would definitely deserves to win an IPL, and I hope it's under Faf. If not this year, maybe in the coming few years. Let's see. Is that probably we can draw parallels to Virat Kohli and Steven Gerrard, legends of the game, but who probably never have won the Premier League in both senses. So, firstly, Virat, the batsman, is important, and if it would be amazing if we can see 100 from him in IPL 2022. But what would be better for him and for the Virat fans would be an IPL trophy, isn't it? So that's my take on Bangalore. Next up, Chennai Super Kings. I don't know what to say about Chennai because the core is so freaking intact. Ruturaj Gaikwad, Ambati Raidu, Moin Ali, DJ Bravo, Ravindra Jadeja, Robbie Uthappa, Deepak Chahar, MS Dhoni. 8 players we're talking about, and then all of them there. Excellent addition in the form of Shivam Dubey, who can bat and ball well. But of course, they do have the amazing Rajavardhan Hangrekar, who's making a lot of noise, or I'll say organic noise, with all the capabilities that he has. Apparently clears boundaries really well. There were some concerns with his bat lift, and we see in the camp that Chennai Super Kings is having in Surat that there's a lot of focus on his bat lift, and the videos also reveal that he's doing much better than earlier. Um MS's love for Mitchell Santner from long we know, and again he's picked, so he's an alternative again out there. But Not very sure if he would actually make it out there. And Devon Conway, I think he could perhaps be a Michael Ahassi for CSK, and given their reliance on uh, top order as well, and of course they bat deep, to be honest as well. Not no two ways here and there. But I think Devon Conway is a very good addition. It would be really interesting to see what his role would be perhaps. I think CSK is one team probably who can maybe just go ahead and play with three foreigners. That's how good they are. With their Indian core so good, and Robbie Uttapa, we may contest saying he's probably is of course ahead of his prime for sure, but it probably is even ahead of his game time. But same perhaps goes with Ambati Raidu, and the same was said in 2018 as well. Daddy's Army and whatnot, but still even today, right? We they come in as the defending champions, and it'll on the paper, on paper they look a certain playing 11. With Moeen Ali, who's going to play probably a very big role. So. And of course, not to forget Ravindra Jadeja and all the glory around him. He's pretty much the core, the most important player of Chennai for sure. And uh, it's a certain top four is what I feel, wherein their Indian core is so freaking strong when their foreign players are not so, with Adam Milne or Devin Conway or DJ Bravo as well. One may say he's not probably the most important player. Probably their most important foreign player would be Moeen Ali. So all in all, Mumbai's conditions also suit their reliance on spin and how they could perhaps churn out the games. And of course, you have the mastermind behind. He's gotten a lot more bulkier now. Apparently, he's clearing it quite at ease. There were some fan pages who reported that he scored 164 runs in a not in a practice game, but in a simulation and whatnot. So uh, we're probably seeing the last 1 to 2 seasons of MS Dhoni, and I'll not make many comments in relation to his relevance with the game, or probably is he eating some other players' space or whatnot. He's very important for the brand IPL, and I think MS Dhoni and brand IPL will walk hand in hand. And I think with his fitness, I think he has at least 2 to 3 years for sure in him. So it would be interesting, and I think that's my take on Chennai Super Kings. What do you think, Bayo?
Yeah, very well covered, Ravi. And like you mentioned, they are a franchise who like to be very loyal to the players and vice versa, and that's the reason that they went all out to maintain their core. And I would say that the only thing concerning would be the amount of cricket that likes of Ambati Raidu, Dwayne Bravo, MS Dhoni, Robin Uthappa have played in the last year or so since the last IPL, because they no longer play international cricket and um, very minimal domestic cricket as well. This is where they will be banking on their other regular Indian talent in the form of Ruturaj Gaikwad and Ravindra Jadeja, like you mentioned. And obviously, Moeen Ali will be one of their top foreign picks as an all-rounder. And you've got the three Kiwis in there, like you mentioned, Mitch Santner, Evan Conway, and Adam Milne. I think a lot of input for them must have come in from a certain Stephen Fleming as well. Um, um, yeah, I think the biggest loss for them has been Deepak Chahar. I think he's more or less ruled out apparently of most of the IPL. So how they're going to fill in his boots is going to be a big question um, to be answered, because we all know how effective he has been for them with the new ball. There are some instances where MS Dhoni likes to bowl his entire quota of overs up front, and we have seen how handy he is with the bat, not only for CSK but for India as well. So how they're going to fill in that gap remains to be seen. If you see his backups in the Indian pace battery, you've got the young Rajwardhan Angarekar, as you mentioned, Tushar Deshpande, I believe, who he played for Delhi Capitals last couple of seasons. They have selected him as well. They have got Chris Jordan as well, who is a good dead bowler. So it remains to be seen how much he is used. Um, But again, you can just ignore CSK at your own peril. People mentioned that when they were back after two seasons in 2018, that it take time for them to recover, but they won the championship in 2018, and we all know what they did last year, when it was mentioned as a dad's army. Um, and that's why they have just missed the playoff in one of the 14 previous seasons, and that you know goes on to show how consistent they have been. And there's a saying that all the other teams just come in to decide who amongst them is going to play CSK in the final, whereas CSK is a certainty in the final is what is being told always. So um, yes, it should be more of a surprise if they don't make it to the playoffs uh, on back of the team that they have. Uh, so again, yeah, one of the other very strong contenders again for the team from down in Chennai. Having said that, it's time to move on to our 10th and final team. And I would certainly not want to sound a bit biased in saying that the team which is close to both of our hearts, Sunrisers Hyderabad. It is because both of us hail from Hyderabad. So what have they got during this season? They obviously let go of David Warner and Rashid Khan, two of their talismanic cricketers, especially since 2016, where they enjoyed a fantastic run and have played in playoffs in five of the last six IPL seasons. Finished with the wooden spoon last season. But they've invested in Kane Williamson again to carry on the mantle as the skipper. Did really well in Warner's absence in 2018 and helped him reach the final. And he's always been a very consistent cricketer, ice cool in situations, and knows how to carry the team and have that communication with players. So again, great choice as a captain. The only worrying factor with him is his current fitness status. He's missed a lot of matches for New Zealand with his troubling elbow. So hopefully he remains fit for them. Um, and they actually had very nice picks in the auction in the form of Aiden Markram, who has added a second string to his bow with his bowling. And we all know what he can do with the bat, and he especially improved his power hitting. They have invested in Rahul Tripathi, who has again been a proven performer for a couple of franchises in the IPL. Hopefully, he gets a crack at the top of the order along with one of the other players. I think it might be Kane Williamson, whom he might partner at the top of the order, or somebody like an Abhishek Sharma, whom the Sunrisers seem to have invested a lot, and we already saw him opening the innings in the last couple of matches last season. So he's handy with the ball as well. So Yuvraj Singh has talked a lot of things, good things about him as he comes from Punjab, and hopefully he gets a consistent run in the team. That's another thing. The Indian batting talent has been our Achilles heel for the last 5 or 6 seasons. Despite that, we have been performing and going into the playoffs very consistently. But they have decided to invest in those same very players. So hopefully, it just works out in the same manner like it did for Mumbai Indians all those years ago, where they invested in young Indian talent. That's where the likes of Priyam Garg, Abhishek Sharma, Abdul Samad come into the picture. Abdul Samad, somebody like him, was retained based on his pure talent. So it'll be interesting to see how the Indian middle order copes up. Uh, then a couple of interesting buys: Nicholas Puran, who's who's filled with loads and loads of talent. He should handle the wicket keeping duties and play that crucial role in the middle order. Uh, Always felt that he's not done complete justice to his talent. And the new batting coach Brian Lara, I think, had a lot of input in getting him selected into the Sunrisers team. So hopefully he maintains the form. Washington Sundar, again, great pick. Will bowl you the tough hours in the power play and will be handy with the bat as well. And he's got Abhishek Sharma to partner in the spin department, and they've picked in a leggy as well. Shreyas Gopal, again a proven domestic performer. So they round off the Indian spin bowling department. And then when we move to the pace department, I think good picks again in the form of Marco Jansen, who is very handy with the bat as well. and the young Umran Malik, whom they have retained. Remains to be seen how fit he is and how he's handled and managed by Williamson. Hopefully, he's unleashed onto the opponents in the most telling way. Uh, and then uh, core group of Indian fast bowling also is very good with the experienced Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who just seemed to be coming into his own in that last couple of series played by India. T. Natarajan again, eagerly looking forward to his comeback. A couple of seasons ago, he made a name for himself, and that catapulted him into the Indian team. Hopefully, the injury worries are behind him, and we want to see the old nut to back bowling his fearsome Yorkers. They have invested in young Karthik Tyagi as well, a real exciting talent, and looking forward to him uh, bowling well in the IPL. Uh, and to wrap it off, Romario Shepherd again is a useful all-rounder that Sunrisers have, and he's done a lot of good things in the CPL and for West Indies as well. But it'll be interesting to see, they have got options aplenty as far as the Indian batting and bowling talent is concerned. Um, who will be the top four overseas picks will be interesting to see. Kane Williamson obviously will play every match as the skipper, so that's one overseas slot taken. Nicholas Puran, I would say, another wicket keeper. They've got backup as well in the form of Glenn Phillips, but Puran will be my first choice. Then Aiden Markram in the middle order, and with both the bat and ball. And the fourth overseas player, it can be either of Mark V. Jansen or Romario Shepherd, depending on the situation. So they were a good squad. Uh, I would definitely like the young Indian talent to you know be given more responsibility, and hopefully they repay the faith. And with the mixture of youth and experience, they should be able to go further in the tournament. And like I said, I would definitely want them to make the playoffs. Later on, but we'll keep a close eye on their progress in the tournament. But I definitely feel that they've got the team. It's just now a matter of performing out there on the field, and hopefully Kane Williamson marshals his troops as we always expect him to. Your thoughts on the Orange Army?
Oh, yes, our very own Orange Army. So, okay, how happy I am with the auction, how happy I was. Not much, to be honest. I was not very happy. But having said that, those 3 to 4 solid buys are still there, and a lot depends on them. But one thing you need to really give it to Sunrisers, and even during the Warner fiasco, I felt the franchise wasn't much at uh, I'll say fault, because there were concerns with uh, commitment, this, that, and social media antics, and there's a lot talked about in that sense. Tom Moody as the head coach, Dale Steinbach, Brian Lara out there, Muthiah Muralidharan, Hemang Badani, solid, a group of coaches or managers or whatever you may say. But a point being, the margins are so less, and probably this is where this very experience would be very, proving to be quite handy. Um, of course, I mean, Sunrisers' intention with Rashid Khan was quite clear. They wanted him to be there out there, but of course, what I don't understand is, he probably wanted a break, and then he didn't necessarily like a lot of things, and then wanted to move ahead to the two different franchises. And we can talk at length about how the Rashid's case especially has been dealt with. With Warner, I think it was a mutual breakup probably from mid-season last year around as well. So nothing much to complain out there. So Aiden Makram isn't a crazy buy, but at the same time quite handy. And I think given our batting fault lines, probably he'll still make it to the playing 11, because I don't see much in terms of what else we can do. Who's that other foreign batsman that we can actually play him, which would perhaps be someone like a Glenn Phillips. Okay, and probably Aiden Makram with his bowling ability also is probably a notch higher. One of my favorite but buy was definitely Nicholas Puran. I've been watching him very closely from years. I was devastated when he met with an accident, when he was almost out of the entire cricketing scene, and the kind of um, comeback he's made. terrific. And of course, he's played really well against India as well, against a top-notch Indian bowling lineup as well in the IPL. And we know how good he was for Punjab as well the last season around. So a lot will depend on him. And of course, like you rightly pointed out, he should be keeping. Um, Glenn Phillips or even Vishnu Vinod are not alternatives. They are like probably a Shivas Goswami kind of a player, wherein who's just there to keep and do nothing more. So it's important that Nick Puran should be and must keep, and then that pretty much deserves or probably justifies the price tag he's bought in from. Samad, Abdul Samad, and Umran Malik from Jammu Kashmir. Uh, Really excited because I've been watching few videos about how Umran Malik has been bowling, and apparently he's bowling 155 tops in every session, and he's being looked at very closely. I'm very sure, be it the MRFPS Academy or the NCA or folks across, like they are definitely watching him. He's been roped in towards the fag end of the IPL last season, so now I think he'll, considering the price, also the retention that he's been made at about 4 crores, would be interesting. Of course, that he's going to get a lot of game time this time around. Um, and two other buys that I'm really happy with was Washington Sundar and Shreyas Gopal. Of course, Washington Sundar is a certain who can bat, who can ball. He can perhaps be that Narayan and open, or probably go into the top four when you just want to hamper the flow of a game or whatnot. So I think it's a pretty solid balance out there, is what I feel. So to quickly cut everything, what I feel is I think our playing 11s might look in this way. I feel Rahul Tripathi and Abhishek Sharma will open with Kane Williamson at number 3, Puran maybe at 4, Aiden Makram maybe at 5, and then Abdul Samad, Washington Sundar, Bhuvi, Marco Jansen, Shreyas Gopal, and Umran Malik. This will be my playing 11. Nattu Karthik Tyagi with Jansen, who's already a lefty, and probably was a better bowler to start with, considering the pace and everything. And given Natarajan's game time that wasn't much, maybe I won't maybe play him instantly, to say that. So yeah, Shreyas Gopal and Washington Sundar to take care of the spinning duties. The third and fourth bowler, and maybe Abdul Samad and Abhishek Sharma can always be explored. Let's not forget we have Suchit Jagadisha as well, who's been constantly knocking on the door, and he's definitely a worthy player. But of course, despite his capabilities, the playing 11 that we are seeing with Sunrisers and the balance that we already have, right? I don't still seem to kind of fit into the playing 11. So overall, I personally felt we could have perhaps done better at the table. But having said that, 3 to 4 solid buys. There was a lot of whining around if Puran deserves that price, and we see that uh, if not him, who is was one definite one question that we can talk about. But Hanks, that his wicket keeping capabilities is also on what he could perhaps do on the field. I'm pretty sure he would be a worthy someone who would probably prove his worth with all the money that was spent. Overall, like every year, what I feel is we come with very low expectations. You qualify for playoffs, it's not a surprise. You don't qualify, it's not a surprise either, because of 10 teams format, and players being spread out and whatnot. So overall, I'm definitely hopeful, and I genuinely hope we do well, and Sunrise play really well this season. But I won't still be surprised if they don't qualify, given um, 9 other teams were quite good. And of course, I think a lot depends on how the team synergies, the team chemistry is, because for Sunrisers, that has always been a big advantage. It's not just about those 3 to 4 superstars who are in the team. To be honest, we do not have necessarily superstars in the team currently to start with. At least the last season we did have 3 to 4, but maybe 2 to 3 for sure. But this time around, a lot depends on the synergy and what you're going to do over the course of 18 games that are going to be played. So overall, let's hope for Sunrise and their playoff journey. But having said that, even if they don't qualify, I'll not be surprised. It is one, probably a sad statement that I'll make. That's pretty much it on my side on Sunrisers.
Thank you very much, Ravi, for your input on that. So with that we come to a wrap of a preview of all the 10 teams that are going to be part of the upcoming 15th season of the Indian Premier League. And before we wrap it up, let's put each other on the spot and guess who are going to be that four teams in the playoffs that we see. To start off with you, Ravi. Who are your four teams?
Oh, well, uh, all right. Okay, I'm not sure of the positions, but I personally feel it's going to be Chennai, Delhi, RCB, and Sunrisers.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think, Vaibhav? Who are your top four?
You have put in all the three southern teams and one team in there, Delhi. Um, I think it's going to be Delhi, Lucknow Super Giants, Chennai Super Kings, and Sunrisers Hyderabad for obvious reasons. So I think the only team that's differing between us is Lucknow for me and Bangalore for you. But who knows? None of these four or five teams might even make it to the playoffs. That's going to be the beauty of this IPL season because when it was an eight-team affair, half and half, four teams would make it and four teams would not make it. But this time it's only four slots for which 10 teams would be fighting out. As a fan, I am a tad worried about the duration of the tournament. It's going to be 2 long months. And I think the figure of eight teams was absolutely perfect for a tournament of IPL's magnitude. But, you know, uh, commerce has taken over the game in a big way, and that is the name of the game everywhere. So who knows, it might be a 12 team uh, some years down the line. Uh, so with that, we come to the end of this current episode. So hopefully it's going to be a cracker of an IPL season, and we get to see some stars performing there for their teams, and more importantly, some young new faces who will be out there and putting their best foot forward for all their respective teams. And we want to see competitive cricket all over the place in Mumbai and in Pune. Um, they have allowed 25% of the crowds, and hopefully they're going to jack that up as the tournament progresses, as the COVID situation improves. But in an ideal scenario, we would like every team to play on a home and away basis so that they have that advantage of at least playing half of their matches in pretty known conditions. Um, so with that, folks, we also will like to let you know that we'll be soon be coming up with another episode discussing on some of the recent international cricket that is going on or is almost finished. The recently concluded India Sri Lanka series, then Australia Pakistan Test series, which is on the verge of completion in the next couple of days. The West Indies and England Test series also is on the verge of completion with the final Test match starting tomorrow. Then we had the Bangladesh South Africa series as well. The white ball series ended today with Bangladesh winning their first series ever in South Africa. So, and then we have got the Women's World Cup going on as well, which is at its business end, and we'll do a exclusive episode of reviewing the Women's World Cup, that is the league stage, and then putting our views forward for what we can look forward to as far as the knockouts are concerned. It's been an engrossing tournament so far, so yeah, we'll take a bit of break from IPL for a bit and then reflect on international cricket before we move back to the IPL once the action starts. And we plan to do a weekly episode once the season starts, and then do a weekly review of all the matches that have been held for, during the course of the 2 months of Indian Premier League. So, um, you have anything else to add, Ravi, in that?
Nothing much. Hoping for a very good IPL season, but of course, it's going to be a pain to wake up in the morning, considering we're in the west part of Canada. But yes, hoping. Of course, the evening games are definitely a pain. Uh, Probably the late evening games that start perhaps at 8 p.m. in India. I don't think it should be much of an issue to probably watch them with a cup of early morning coffee.
For sure. Okay, folks, with that is a wrap on this episode number 32, and hopefully we'll see you soon again for our next episode in a couple of days' time. Thank you very much.
Thanks all.